Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We are here for the one before last session in MIS. Let me share the screen. And we have around 23 students at the moment. We'll see that others are joining. Let me share the screen and we'll start the discussion till others join. I believe you can see the screen now, no?
Still, it is being shared, sir. Now, okay.
All right, okay, thank you. Let me start the recording also.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good day to you all, those who joined with the Management Information Systems discussion. This discussion linked with the previous discussion. We have discussed about the developing business IT strategies. And after that discussion, we are identifying developing business IT solutions. Those who are there in the last session should have remember our discussion related to the business IT strategies, and we have discussed about mainly the joint hands of CEO and CIO, and identifying the business plan and IT plan, and combination of business and IT plan together, and identifying priorities of developing business information technology solutions. So this strategies. And this one is mainly discussed about the implementation of these strategies and developing business IT solutions. Some of the people might have understand developing by business IT solutions is business and IT solution is mainly the job of information technology professionals. But that perspective is there with most of the parties in organizations, but those who are really know what is the thing that really going on with information technology solution development should know that we are not developing a information technology solution, but also we are giving a solution to a business problem that most of the organizations are facing, right? That's the thing that we're going to discuss today, and our discussion goes into the touching some of the areas related to the information technology system development area, as well as it goes into identification of problems and how information technology development team should perform will be discussed in our discussion today here in developing business and IT solutions. Let me give you idea about the learning objectives first, then we can simply go through the slides, and I hope to have a kind of a teamwork today in order to understand a few different problems as well as to give you solutions and give kind of a experience to you about what is really information systems development and implementation. These are our learning objectives. At the end of the session, students should be able to identify system approach and system development. Mainly, we identify information system development as a systematic approach. That's why we call it as systems approach, right? Because every information system application or app that we develop in organizations are developed by identifying the need in an organization. That need identification till this solution development, the process is very systematic. That's why systems thinking and systems approach is important to understand at the beginning. So we're going to identify systems approach or system approach and system development in line with the system approach. We're going to explain system development process, right, even though some of the parts are played by information technology professionals, we're going to understand, even non-IT people should understand some of the things related to the system development from their abilities or from their understanding. It will be helpful for them to communicate with the system developers easily from the language that they are discussing, that they are using. The system development process going to be discussed to some extent, and we're going to identify how prototyping can be used as an effective technique to improve the process of system development for end users and IS specialists. Right? The prototyping is another mechanism or alternative approach for system development rather than the approach that we are discussing here today as waterfall method or traditional system development approach. We'll explain, we'll identify what are the ways that we can use prototyping and how we can use prototyping and what is the outcome of prototyping which is going to be discussed, and as a effective techniques of system development. And also we're going to understand the basic project management and the importance to successful system development effort. Right? You might be heard of a project manager, IS project manager. Project managers are there a lot of in different projects, but information system development projects are unique in that IS project manager need to face or have to face a lot of difficulties in developing and completing the system development because not in compared to the other projects, information system development projects are very time bounded, and they have to think about the quality as well as the financially the budget need to be made by the same as other projects. But the time span or the system development time period is very important because otherwise, if you are not meeting the time bound limitations, you might be not developing a system which is suited to the given time period. Because if by the time that you complete the system, sometimes the system technologies might be outdated. Therefore, they are always facing a very tough time as project managers to meet the time limitations and develop quality product to the system where it suit to the environment and adaptable to the organizational requirement. And finally, we're going to identify activities involved in the implementation of a new information systems, because implementation or a deployment is one of the important activity that system developers has to face. And most of the time, even though you develop most outstanding system in your organization, at the time of implementation, your system might get collapse or might not get accepted by the users or end users. So implementation is a very important process, important activity. We're going to identify that also here in our discussion. You can see that it covers a lot of areas, but we'll try to understand it briefly and give a kind of a lively discussion by involving in different activities from your knowledge, as well as I know that some of the people here are from IT related organizations, or some of the people might have already involved in system development as a domain expert even. We're going to understand, we're going to use that knowledge also here in our discussions, in sharing with all the groups all the people in the class, right? And as the first thing, information system development, we need to understand what is system development, how information system development comes into the discussion of systems approach, right? Systems approach, because here information systems, when system approach is applied to the development of information system solutions to the business problem, is called information system development or application development. Here, I like to highlight this point as an important thing. it says information system development, information system solution to a business problem, right? There it explained about this information IS solution to problem, solution to business problem, right? This part I like to highlight because usually system development happen as a one perspective. System development or the system solution developed as a what you call answering a problem, right? Answering a problem. Therefore, IS information, that's the term solution also came up with this concept. This solution, right? Solution is developed as a answer to a problem, right? Problem. So, can anybody say an example, right? What sort of a problem is solved by IS solution? Can you give example of this? A problem which is solved by information system solution? You can take example from your organization if you like. Anybody?
So previously, in most of government organizations, to record the attendance of the employees, they use some manual methods. But later on, with the development of this fingerprint swiping machine, we can get the informations as a report by using the system.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the important problem faced solved by employee attendance system concept, right? Earlier we see that most of the government organization we have a book, right? Book to sign. So what people do, they put the in and out while they're coming, put the in time and put the signature, and the red line was the one of the say very famous thing in government organization, still in schools or some other places still there, but most of the government organization earlier also had the same mechanism. They put the signature and people put a red line, or the clerk or the head of the organization put a red line after a specific time, and that's the time that they has to go for a half-day leave or sometimes short leave, where they are late. If they are late, they might be identified as late comers. But once the number of people getting increased, one book might not enough for all the people for a few days. So once the number of people getting larger and larger, they face a problem of maintaining the attendance or tracking the attendance. As they identify that as a problem, right? As they identify that as a problem, the IT solution or IS solution came, information system solution came with different names. We commonly identify that as the employee attendance systems. It might be a thumb identification, it might be a swapping of a card, or it might be a radio frequency ID. Nowadays, people are using in some companies, right? So that's the problem and the solution. And you can simply see that the problem was solved with that solution, employee attendance system, right? Good. And there's another thing that we develop information systems, not only for the problems only, not only for the problems. Some of the people develop an information system to achieve an opportunity, right? Do you have any idea why people develop IS solutions to achieve opportunity? Yeah, opportunity in what case? In what opportunities are achieved by developing information technology solutions?
For the productivity and productivity improvement?
Yes. Can we have a kind of example what way that we can improve productivity with IS solutions?
For an example, in our company, there were previously product development system. It was manually handled by each department. Now it's converted to the workflow management system, and any department can enter their comments, and with the that appropriate process, that product improvement life cycle, that criterias, and can be finalized by the each department as a process, single process.
Okay, which mean that even though we can go through the same traditional mechanisms, people identified that we can go with the same traditional process, but if we change ourselves into this process, new process, it will be an opportunity for an organization, right? As that explanation, okay, as that explanation, and what we can do is we can think of, if I think of there's a example given in the message even, but as the same example, if I am taking, we can think of some situation we can achieve opportunity. Very common example that we experience nowadays is why people go for a e-business system. It's an opportunity nowadays. Most of the time people can go with the traditional business, but with this pandemic situation, we know that most of people reluctant to go for face-to-face purchasing. Therefore, what the organization identified, we have opportunity, right? We have opportunity that if the people are not happy to come face-to-face to our organization physically and buy the product, we can give the product to them in a virtual environment, right? Even though we are not providing them virtual environment, we can say, right, if anybody like to buy our products, if they really want to buy products, they need to come to our shop physically and buy the product, all right? So we can keep that our state at that way and say that if they want, they will come to our organization physically and buy. But if we think that, right, we are having a good opportunity here. We are not focusing only the people, those who are coming to our shop physically. We can also get the job done or get the these businesses if we are open up our organization virtually, right? That's an opportunity. Therefore, developing an e-business solution is an opportunity. Therefore, if we are identifying that there's no problem in the organization at the moment going physically, but if we open up e-business system, it will be an opportunity for an organization. So some of the organization, by seeing this opportunity, what they have done, they have opened up virtual organizations, and in parallel to the physical organization, they have opened up the virtual wing and as well as develop the e-business solutions. So those customers, then their customer base can be grown very larger, because why? They can open up their business to a global marketplace, not a local marketplace only. So if they can open up their business to a global marketplace, it's an opportunity for an organization, right? In that case, we are not developing an e-business solution as a problem that you are facing in the organization. You can still go with the same systems, but you are open up e-business solutions, e-business system as a solution to achieve, to attain to an opportunity, right? Therefore, information system solutions are developed not only for the problem that they are facing. Information system solution could be developed as a achieving the opportunity also. That is one of the important things you should understand first in our discussion, right? That's the first thing that it plant to your mind, that why we develop information system solution. The next thing that I like to take you into the discussion about this, right? The thing that we are identifying an organization where we identifying that some of the problems that they face, one of the problem might be something like this, right? Another problem might be something like this, where organizations are are facing difficulties. Organizations are facing difficulties because they are identifying their organizations having different problems, and the opportunities are there, but they don't know how to really understand from where to start and where the problem is, right? So in that case, we are taking our discussion into a different level as identifying the problem or opportunity from a systematic thinking or a systems thinking, right? Identifying the problem from a systems thinking is very important, because why? We cannot just develop a solution. We know we have understood the last discussion, identifying or prioritizing information system development need. We have to go through by understanding different things, not only just in the feelings. We are identifying where the bottlenecks of the problems are there. By understanding, sometime we discussed about value chain model last time, remember? The value chain model also, what he said, we need to understand where the problem lie, what are the places that we have bottlenecks. If we have a kind of a plan of facing the forces that we face, right? We have taken the example of Michael Porter's 5 forces model, remember? And identifying what are the strategies to overcome those forces. We said that we can go for a cost leadership, we can go for a differentiation, we can go for a market niche, we can go for innovation. Likewise, different strategies we have discussed last time to overcome these 5 forces. So basically the forces faced by organizations. As well as we discussed, organizations need to understand their value chain, right? Those who are there last time should have remembered, I discussed about the industry value chain. And thereafter we discussed about the organizational value chain, and understand step by step from the supplier giving us the raw material till we give the finished products to the retailer. We are going through a very tedious process in our organization. If our organization is a say production-based organization, or even if it's a service-based organization, we should have gone through different steps of value additions till we provide the value to the customer. So in this process, we should understand now bottlenecks. Where are the places we are stuck? Where are the places that we are spending a lot of money, right? What are the places where we incur a lot of cost? Likewise, different places we should understand and develop applications to overcome these problems in the places, right? Or smooth out these bottlenecks, or widen these bottlenecks is very much important to understand. We got that idea last time, and we identified that we need to prioritize systems. Then only we can go into the right identification, right development strategy of system for the organization, right? Even though from that point, once we identified, right, our bottlenecks might be there in marketing division, or our bottlenecks might be there in production division, or our bottlenecks might be there in say raw material handling, something like that. Likewise, if we identify those places, then comes the point we need to develop an application to that place. In developing application, this systems thinking is very important, right? I'll give a good idea about what is system thinking. And here it says that seeing the forest and the trees in any situation, right? This statement having a lot of depth. If you think clearly what you mean by seeing the forest and the trees in any situation, right? If you see a forest, right, think of a situation where just imagine you are somewhere, say 2,000 or 3,000 up in the sky. If you see in the globe, to above a forest, you can see the forest, a green area from the sky, a bird's eye view, right? If you're getting closer and closer to the earth, what you see? You are seeing huge trees, right? You might be seeing some sort of small trees, right? You come closer and closer to the earth, you might be seeing bushes, you might be seeing small grasses. Likewise, from the top to bottom in a forest, if you think detail, you can see many things, right? That's the idea. It says, see the forest and the trees in any situation. Therefore, if you think of a situation in a business organization, you should see the total picture, as well as you should see some of the important elements in that organizational activities, not only the total picture, but also some of the small places where the information is sharing here and there. That's the idea behind seeing the forest and the trees in any situation. In seeing the forest and the trees in any situation, your eye is very important, right? If you are seeing a forest and the trees, your eye is very important. Similarly, in an organizational system development, you should know what are the things that need information, what are the information requirements of the users, right? That's the thing that is say that seeing the forest and the trees in any situation. Here, there's a simple thing that I can show to you to give you some of an understanding about seeing the forest and the trees in any situation, right? In seeing the forest and trees in any situation can be understood by this simple example. This is not exactly relevant to our discussion, but this is a simple thing that to check your eye and see that whether you are really getting this thing, right? Just give a glance to this, right? Just give a glance to this and see the hidden tiger in the picture. Find the hidden tiger in the picture. Can you see the hidden tiger? There's a Bengali tiger is there. You can see clearly. And if I see from the perspective, seeing the forest and the trees in any situation, there here it says that you can see a one Bengali tiger. Say, find the hidden tiger in the picture, right? Can you anybody give a try? If you like, if you see better, you can give show it in the chat message. Then it will give a chance to others to see the hidden tiger in the picture.
Recording stopped.
If you see it, just send me a chat message. Then I see that I know that you saw it. The question is, you can see a huge Bengali tiger. Find the hidden tiger in the picture. Anybody like to give a try? Okay, good. I seen that one got the answer. Yes, any more? Who's 082? Any more? 082 is the one that you got the answer at the moment. Any other? Just a simple thing that what I just to give you a kind of a feeling about seeing the forest and the trees. It's not relevant to hear about the forest and the trees, but give you a feeling that what you mean by forest and the trees. Okay, good. 84 also getting. No, it's not inside the bushes. it's a good thing if, that you can give to a kid. There are a lot of pictures in the internet. I just got it from the internet. You can give to a kid to check that whether you see a hidden tiger in the picture. Right. I believe that this time is enough for you to see it. Yeah, 0, 84 and 82. Would you like to speak up and show the place that you see the tiger? Zero, 84 and 82. You have seen the hidden tiger in the picture. Where you have saw that?
It's in tiger's body at the tip.
Yes, thank you. It's in the tiger's body. Have you seen that here? T-H-E, the H-I-D-D-E-N, hidden tiger. Right? You might be searching for tiger, real tiger, but here it asks that find the hidden tiger in the picture. Right? It's like a funny thing, but what I want to show you is the way that you see, right? The way that you see the things and how you can identify things in any situation. Therefore, you might be searching from a different perspective, but it has asked the question, the hidden tiger. It's a nice picture which gives you a thinking of a different perspective, not from the same way. It's like a out of the box thinking, right? Okay, that is the thing that what I want to give you to just to have idea about seeing things, right? So
Recording in progress.
in that example, where you can see the forest and the trees in any situation, mean that you can see a thing with some details. It will be helpful to understand these 2 bullet points. It says that seeing interrelationships among systems rather than linear cause and effect chains, right? What it means? It says the interrelationships among systems rather than linear cause and effects. We know that cause and effects are something that we identified with some of the situation. For example, if I say that if X influence to the Y something like this, we'll say that if we change the X, right, the Y will be changed. Therefore, we call this as the dependent variable, right? This as independent variable, right? So that's a linear cause and effect. If this goes to this effect of Y, if we change the X, Y is changed. Therefore, sometimes we in a linear situation we write Y equals to mx plus c. It's a linear cause and effect, and sometimes we draw it in a xy coordinate, something like this, and we say this is the line where we can think of it represents the y and x. This will be the y-axis, and this will be the x-axis, something like this, right? And this will be the line that represents the impact of x on y, right? But it will not always as that in systems. That's the thing that it says, right? It's a interrelationships among systems. It might not only x, there might be many other factors, and also sometimes it might be there in another situation. Might be y also have an impact on x sometime, right? Not only x always impact on y. Therefore, interrelationships are always possible in real life systems, right? If you think of an information system in your organization, that information system development might impact on many other systems, many other processors, because all these systems develop with or based on information systems developed based on a business process. So you should have understand business process earlier discussions, I should have explained you different business process. The business process is something that we might be seeing that it interrelate different activities, different routines might be there. If you collection of routines will become a business process, and business process might be limited to a functional area, or business process could be linked with many functional areas. We call it as cross-functional business process, right? Therefore, here what we think of the systems might be interrelationships, right? There are different systems might interrelate, but it will be not similarly or simply a linear cause and effect. Will be not something like this. It will be something very complex sometime in real life organizations. And seeing the process of change among systems rather than discrete snapshot of change, right? If you are changing the organizational system, it will be a process of change, right? It will be not finished within a second, right? You can't say that if you are taking a photograph, what will happen? The photograph capture that specific moment. If it is capture specific moment, mean it's a discrete snapshot. It will be not changed thereafter. The snapshot will be not changed. But the system development or the systems is basically it's a process of change. It will be changing day by day sometime. Even though it might be operate the same process, the information it capture might be changed, and the way that it produce the information after analyzing the data and getting the data into a proper arrangement will be changed. Therefore, it's a process of change. You should think of it as a process of change rather than it's a one change which happened as a concrete change in an organization, right? With that understanding, seeing the systems in any situation which is explained here is very much important to understand, right? Seeing the system in any situation, in thinking of systems in any situation, here you can see these components. I have hide up some of the areas just to give you some experience on the way that we should think, right? So these are different components in a systematic process. We know that input, process, output, and these are the controls, right? So I have hide these areas, these boxes I have just hide to give you an idea about the impact, right? Your output might be something like this, right? If you do something, if you put something input, after process, there will be output. If the output is poor sales performance, this is a problem to organization. The output is poor sales performance, what will be happen? You might be thinking that, right, this will be happen mainly because of what thing? Is it because of input? Is it because of control? Is it because of processing? Right? Once you think of this, you can think in different ways. You can think this. If the poor sales performance is there as the output because of inadequate selling effort, if you put less effort in sales, you might be having poor sales performance. That is true in a way, right? But you can't stop the story from that point, because why? There might be many other reasons. There might be out of date sales procedure might be there. Because of that out of date sales procedure, you might be end up with a poor sales performance. Or else you might have a poor sales management. Once you think of an outcome as a problem, if you only providing a solution to this place, right? From your solution, from your highest solution, you have failed in your duties, right? If you are providing a solution to this place only, right, that is not adequate. If you are providing solution to this only, that also not adequate. That's the point that it says that the system is an interrelationship. There are a lot of relationships. Here you can see that, right? All these places will be related to each other. There are different relationships that we can build. So system development should be very, very broad perspective. It should not focus, it should not narrow down to a specific place and give a solution to that specific problem. Then there might be some other problems might arise from a solution, and the solution might not provide a real solution to the problem, right? That's the important thing in systems thinking. So if you are with the systems thinking in your organization, your system development will be very much effective, very much help, very much say appropriate. As a manager or as a member of the organization, you can support the systems thinking from your expertise, right? You might be seeing that I am in marketing area, or I'm in production area, or I'm in HR. Therefore, I can't give solutions. No, if you are developing a systems for your organization, rather than the IT expert, you are the expert in your domain. You might be the expert in HR. The IT people can give the technical solution, but the technical solution should be always provide with a good understanding of the domain expertise or the domain problems. If you are a domain expertise, they will be not the domain. They are not the domain expert. The IT people are not the domain expert. You are the domain expert as an expert in your domain. Therefore, most of the organizations are highly valuing the expertise of the people in the organization. That's why we call it as it's not developer-led systems, it's user-led systems. Nowadays, most of people are appreciating in developing, right? There were developer-led systems were there some time back. All the things are explained by the developer, and developer think that the problem is this and develop the solution. But nowadays, the user-led systems are there. Most of the time, people are thinking of understanding the user's perspective, and always system development is basically understand the information requirements of end users and give higher priority to that, and involve a lot of end users in systems development, right? It's a very simple thing, but in a way, it's a very complex thing also, because it's understanding these all the user requirements and things are very important. And sometimes if you miss some of the things, you might be face the consequences. And when using the system, then the problems cannot be resolved very easily. You have to go through the cycle again, right? Now, what does this cycle mean? What is this? So what we are going to discuss is systems discussions, right? So once you think of system discussion, the system is system analysis and designing, or the process of system analyzing and designing is the thing that we are identifying here, right? So once you think of system analysis and designing as an overall process where we need to design the information application or a system and implement it in a proper way to the organization, to a needed place, right? So once you think of identifying the business problem, as it says here, and developing a solution, the system development as analysis and development, or we call it as SAD, right? System analysis and development is the process we need to understand here in our discussion, right? There are two common approaches. Those who are there, those who have learned this should have known this about the common approaches. But even though you have not learned it earlier, you can simply identify these common approaches. One is object-oriented analysis and design, which we are not going to go through, because in order to go through this, we need to understand object-oriented concepts, right? If I'm going to start discussion about object-oriented concept, it will be a different direction, or if we are going into a different direction. Therefore, I am not going to go through the discussion of object-oriented analysis and designing. But the system analysis and designing as a traditional system development lifecycle is very common and easy to understand even to a person who might not have an understanding about object-oriented concepts, right? So we are not going to go into the direction of object-oriented analysis and designing, but we are going to go with the system development lifecycle or traditional system development lifecycle in understanding system analysis and design. The simple thing is, here we are thinking from a broader view and understanding step by step how it goes, And here we are mainly concentrating in object-oriented designing of reusing the systems or reusing different things by understanding the elements as objects, right? So we are not going to go into the first approach. We are going to go into the second approach, system development life cycle, SDLC, right? We'll see what is SDLC. People give different names for this. Some people say this is a waterfall method. Some people say this a traditional system development life cycle. So different terms might be used in different sources or different books. In this book, in O'Brien's book, we'll have this diagram, right? So this diagram might be differ from the diagrams that we have seen earlier in system development, but try to understand this. It's a very systematic diagram where I give you an idea of developing a system by understanding the requirement of the users, right? If you go clearly, if you just give a glance to these steps, these boxes, right? The system development life cycle start with system investigation, right? We'll go into these one by one, but just to give you some of the facts relevant to this diagram, right? System investigation, system analysis, system design, system implementation, system maintenance, right? I always, once I'm teaching this process to non-IT people or even to IT people, I'll remind them the same process you will use while you are planning to build your house, right? Assume that you are going to build your house by purchasing a property and build a house. You follow this process. Same processes are there. Activities are there here in system development life cycle. Then it's easy for you to understand as well as to remember each of these steps. System investigation. System investigation is you might be doing some background study and understanding here. Every step you have a product. Here, can you see the product? So all these steps end up with the product. Just give an understanding of the product. Then once we are later go into the step-by-step process, this product will be helpful you to understand that is the outcome of this step. System investigation basically investigate the requirement or the problem or identification of opportunity here. Understand the business problem or opportunity. The term opportunity appear here, right? Remember at the beginning I'll explain to you. I have explained that problem and the opportunity is the initiation we use to understand the development, highest development is needed. The problem or opportunity understanding is system investigation, right? Here you can see the product is feasibility study. We usually do a feasibility study, whether we can go for a feasibility. If you equate that to building a house, if you think of buying a property, and the property you might be think of how you are going to build your house, whether the property is large enough to build your house, whether the property having a proper entrance, whether the property having different other requirements that you have. So you do a kind of a feasibility study. Sometimes mentally you do it, sometimes you do it with a piece of paper, or you do it with the support of a planner or somebody, right? And you can see that after system investigation, system analysis start. System analysis, the product is functional requirements, right? Functional requirement analysis is basically understanding the information requirements and what functionalities, what features are there to be added to the system, right? A functional requirement. If once you think of a functional requirement, you can simply equate it to a example of a building a house. After you do the feasibility, whether you are financially feasible, whether you have enough money to build a house, whether you have enough space to build a house, then you are asking from the people, those who know, right? You can ask from the family members what sort of functionalities we need, how many bedrooms we need, how many washrooms might be needed, how many verandas, how many kitchens. Likewise, different perspectives different ideas might be collected, and you identify these functionalities should be there or these features should be there in my house, right? You simply understand the need of the people, right? You say that your spouse might be said, I like to have kitchen in this way, or your say daughter or son might be said, I like to have a bedroom like this. Likewise, you can have a requirement identification, right? Develop information system solutions are going with this process, right? System designer is the process that we do with the system specification as the outcome, right? System designer is like an architecture. You give the ideas to the architecture, he will be draw a picture of the house, or will basically the black and white picture in two-dimensional picture. He might be developed, or even in a three-dimensional model will develop with the support of some simulation software nowadays available. The architecture's job is the design. He'll be designed and give you a spec, system specification. In the system itself, you have that spec, right? You have that spec, specification. What are the things that is needed? What is the hardware needed? What are the software need? What are the data technologies need? What are the telecommunication technology need? All these things are included in system specification, right? In equivalent to the house example, you might be given different viewpoints: front elevation, side elevation, what is the structure of the house, right? Structural design, everything given by the designer or the architecture, right? And after a while, system implementation, right? System implementation is the operational system where you need to implement, and the implementation might include some time before implementation. Think of a house example again. You might be given a picture of the house, or you might be given all structural design by the architecture. You should take this architecture's drawing to the mason. The mason is the person who build the house, right? The mason will follow the architectural design and build the house. Sometime architecture might visit the place and give guidance. These are the things that I have highlighted here, and these are the things which we need here. Likewise, there might be some modifications. Therefore, the mason is the one that to put that into a tangible outcome. And once the tangible outcome is there, you can see that the house is getting built. And once the building is built, you can simply go and see the inside, whether enough ventilation is there, whether enough light is there, right? What sort of a color should apply? Likewise, everything you can think from a real situation, real experience. You can see, then you can go and start living in that house with your family. With the implementation. The implementation process might divide into two processes sometime from some people. Some people after design, system design, they identify another step as system development, then system implementation. Those who have learned this process earlier might have learned it that way: system design, system development, and system implementation. Here in this book, they have used this implementation, both taking development and implementation together. Once I come into this step in detail, I'll explain that, how they have done that, right? But from a perspective here in this book, you can see that the outcome or the product is operational system, same as the house. Once the house is built by the mason, and before we go into the house or start living in that house, you might be go and see that how it appear and how it really experience, and you might be have the completed house is the outcome there in the example of a building and house, right? So here systems thinking or a system development life cycle, here the product or operational system is the outcome of this. And finally, the maintenance, right? Maintenance, because the maintenance comes into the discussion once we start living in that house. If I take the house example again, once we have started living in that house, we need to just do the simple, modification sometimes. We usually do clearing and other things are there. You need to clean the house regularly and keep the house in tidy manner, right? As well as you might be experiencing some of the things which might not have met with the previous design. Sometimes your family members might complain, we should have another room, or we should have another bathroom, or we should have a veranda here. Likewise, some maintenance suggestions might be there, right? Suggestion for improvements, right? If the improvement needed for the house, sometimes you might be see that not enough ventilation, we should have a window here. Not enough light to the house, we should have some sort of a mechanism to take the light into the house, right? Likewise, different maintenance suggestions might be there. Therefore, what we should do in such situation, you might need to go into the system investigation again, right? System analysis again, system design again, system implementation again. Likewise, once the maintenance suggestions came, right, the outcome might be an improved system in a systems discussion, right? If the information system even, we might be identifying some of the pitfalls, some of the places where user might not happy. If the users are not happy in some of the areas, what the owner should do, owner should understand what are the improvements needed to the system and start this process as the version 2 of the system. So it goes again in the same way, and this cyclic process can be go into different version 1 of the application, version 2, version 3. Likewise, we can go with the different cyclical process. That's why it identified that system development life cycle, right? But some of the people have different perspective, different comments on that. They said this is not really a cycle. They said it's different, because you are starting from a place here, assume that you are starting from here, and you are completing your cycle in this way, and you might be end up with here, because your new improvements is not the place that there you have started. Therefore, this might be the version 1, right? Then the version 1 is there. Once you are identifying the improvements are needed, your version 2 might be started here and go into a different place, right? Or another version might be there. Another version might be there. Likewise, you might be going to different version. This might be a version 2. This might be version 3. Likewise, your development, your application might improve into different versions. By understanding this process, people argue then it's not cycle. It's not a cycle. Then what it is? What is this? Any suggestion? What is this?
It is a flow?
Different names might be used by people. Sorry?
Spiral?
Spiral, good. Spiral. So some people identified it's not system development life cycle, it's a spiral method, right? Either way it's called, you should understand that you can think it of as a cycle or a spiral, because based on the appearance of this version changes, since the cycle is, if it is can be called as a cycle, it should start from a place and comes back again to the same place. This is a cycle, no? So if it start from here and come back again to the same place, then it creates a cycle. Because it's not like a cycle, it goes into a different formation, that we are identifying this as a spiral, right? There were some people call this as a spiral method, right? That's the name that I want to highlight to you. But simple thing that you need to understand is that the mechanism that we follow here, step-by-step mechanism, is very much important to understand, even to a non-IT person, because why, you might be a member of the system development team one day, or if there's a system development happen in your organization, in your department, you will be a main focal point, because why? Your domain knowledge is very much important to share with the people or the system developers. If your domain knowledge is not given to them, they might be develop a garbage, right? If you put the garbage in, what you know, they will put the garbage out, right? The system development mainly concentrated on the users, right? There were all these steps here. I'm not going to go one by one, because later in the case, we'll go one by one, and then we can come back and see these detailed steps of all these different steps. Therefore, here in this source, right, in this book, the system development lifecycle understand with these steps: system investigation, system analysis, system design, system implementation, and system maintenance, right? We'll see one by one, and we'll quickly go through these steps and try to understand what are these steps. Thereafter, we can go with a kind of a practical scenario of these steps. We'll start with the system investigation. Now, what do you know about system investigation? I believe that most of people here should have had that sort of investigation in your organization, right? Here it says the first step in system development process is system investigation. But we really do, we might be going with different proposals, right? There are different proposals. Remember the previous discussion that we had, identifying strategies? Because identify strategies will initiate this investigation process. It may involve consideration of proposals generated by business society planning process. Remember this business society planning process? You should have remember we discussed about business society planning process, that different say diagrammatic diagrams that we have discussed in the previous discussion. We identify the proposals generated by that process. They propose, right? The first priority we should give to this place, right? The second priority we should give to that place. Likewise, we have understood the proposals. Therefore, here, system investigation start with this analysis of proposals, right? Also include the preliminary feasibility study of the proposed information system solutions. Therefore, there are different feasibilities which we have understood, right? Which we have understood. There are different feasibilities which we have understood, where we can think of the way that we need to understand and what are the things that we should concentrate, right? The feasibility studies is a preliminary study of determining these things, right? What are the information needs of prospective users, right? Resource requirements, cost, benefits, and the feasibility. Usually in feasibility study, there will be a cost-benefit analysis will be done. Cost-benefit analysis. In the cost-benefit analysis, people are checking what are the cost and the benefits of the system development. Usually they touch into different cost and benefits, right? The main cost and benefits you can simply differentiate is tangible and intangible. Tangible cost and intangible cost, right? What might be the intangible cost that you might be experiencing in system development, usual system development? Intangible cost? Any suggestions? Intangible cost?
Development, sir?
Sorry?
Time required to develop?
Yes, in a way. But if you think of the outcome of the development or outcome of the system, because we are thinking of once we develop this system, these costs might be there. We usually know that we have to spend a lot of money. Those are tangible costs. Then intangible cost. It might be not be there in every system, but some system it might be there.
Like social costs, sir?
Yes, sometimes social cost, because you might be see that earlier a lot of human interactions were there once you do it in traditional mechanism, and sometime with the automated situation, human interaction is very less, right? In that case, you can think that because of the system, we might have a lot of benefits, but intangible cost might be earlier. Human relationships were not there now, right? Likewise, those might be not hugely impact, but you should understand the realities. What are the realities that we might face once we develop an application, right? The social costs might be in different directions. The one example which I have just given is lack of human interaction might be a intangible cost which we might experience. That was there in most of the CRM systems, right? In the organization, even if the CRM systems were developed, the human interaction were minimized, right? Because most of the things that you can do it with most of the automated systems, right? Salesforce automation, you might be heard of. If you have Salesforce automation systems was developed, what happened? A lot of human interactions were deducted, right? Because it's not needed. But if you compare to a CRM with human interaction, people have a lot of human relationships. Think of sometime Mudalali might have a good relationship with good rapport with the sales agent, but after Salesforce automation, agent might not visit the shop. Mudalali can give his requirement online. There's no human interaction, and there might be a lot of other things might come up with that, which could be a intangible cost to the organization, right? There are a lot of things. I just give you some of the facts. What are the intangible benefits of a system development? We know that tangible benefits are there. You can improve the productivity, a lot of things you can show, but intangible benefits? Any such?
Timing benefits, I mean, it's improvements where the time saving.
Yeah, if you can measure up the time, we can identify tangibly even, but intangible in the sense that yes, you can take that even to the discussion where benefit is you can see financial benefits same as financially cost calculation you can simply identify. But think of something like this. Think of a boom in the goodwill of the organization or the popularization of the organization, which is cannot be touched or cannot be measured in the way that you are doing it financially, but increase in popularity, right? Increase in goodwill of the organization, which is tangible, which is not tangible, which is intangible, but become a benefit to the organization, right? So what I'm trying to say, even time you can say earlier we had to spend half an hour. Now 15 minutes is enough to do this process. Then we can simply quantify that as a tangible benefit. But something like goodwill or a popularity increase, which is not measurable, that's what we called as a intangible benefit, right? Likewise, tangible and intangible cost and benefits can be evaluated as a feasibility study, one of the things. Other than that, you can simply think of operational feasibility, economic feasibility, technical feasibility, human factors, legal or political feasibility. Likewise, different areas which you can cover up, which you can check once you are discussing, once you are identifying the feasibility of the organization. So, in a nutshell, where information system development, system investigation, initial part in the system investigation is mainly concentrate about the things could be happen in the future if we develop this application to the organization. Some of the companies do this in very seriously because why? They are not taking a gambling. They have to take this advantages and disadvantages they need to identify beforehand, because then it will be very much helpful to them to plan the future, right? Therefore, system investigation, people spend a lot of time sometimes as well as people, by going through this step, you can easily clear up the areas where organization can take benefits. And it's like doing a SWOT analysis. You can easily do analysis and see that what is the real need of organization and whether we are ready to do that for the organization. So system investigation is that the process where you come up with the feasibility study as the outcome. Therefore, the end of the system investigation, one document you can develop. The document is feasibility study report, right? The feasibility study report not only cost and the benefits, you have the resource requirements and information needs of prospective users also need to identify, but not in detail, but simply understand who are the stakeholders, of this organization, who are the stakeholders who really need the information, and what sort of information requirements are there with them, as well as resource requirements also simply identified in the feasibility report. If you have a good feasibility report, mean that you can simply start the system analysis. Got it? So that's the first step, system investigation. System analysis. System analysis is something that we are identifying the system as a point, where system analysis is an in-depth study of end-user information needs, right? We mainly concentrate information needs here in system analysis process, right? Because why? Information need is the main thing that we need to highlight in system analysis, right? Therefore, there are, you might be heard of some of the organization having system analysis and business analysis. Who are the system analysts and who are the business analysts? Right? The point or the role is analyst, right? Analyst is the person. Analyst. You might be have a business analyst and system analyst. And business come, system analyst also there in some of the organizations. What's the job role of these two category of people? Business analyst job and system analyst job. Are they same or different? Any idea? Because organizations are using these two roles, business analyst and system analyst. In the organization, now there are business analysts, or in the system development, there are system analysts also there. Are they same or different?
I think two different concepts.
Yeah, it's two different concepts. It's two different roles, right? The people sometimes that business come system analysts are hiring. If it is so that then both these roles need to be played by one person. But basically, system analyst is the person who analyze the system and system architecture, basically system related components. All right, he analyzed the hardware side, software side, likewise all the system related infrastructure is analyzed by system analyst. But the business analyst mainly concentrate about the business requirements. All right, what are the organizational requirements? What are the managerial requirements? How people need to be there? Likewise, all the business related components are analyzed by business analyst. Financially, right? What are the things might be needed? Financial analysts all are linked with the business analyst. But the system analyst job is different. System analysts are mainly concentrated about the sometime information needs, hardware needs, software needs, what are the telecommunication. Likewise, all these system related things are handled by system analyst, right? Some of the people, as I told you, system and business analyst has to play both these roles and cater to both these requirements. So here in this case, there's in-depth study of end user needs, end user information needs are mainly concentrated by system analyst, right? It produces the functional requirements used as that basis for the design of an information systems. The information needs, after they identify the system analyst, understand information needs, they will suggest different functional requirements, some of the functionalities in the system, right? It typically involves detailed study of information needs of the company and the end users, right? Who are the different stakeholders? What are their information needs, right? And activities, resources, and products of one or more of the information system currently being used. It's a very important thing. Currently being used. If there's a system currently being used in an organization, then it has to be analyzed by the system analyst, right? He has to analyze the system. What are the hardware parts available? What are the software parts available? What are the things that is there used by the system at the moment as telecommunication? Everything has to be analyzed by the system analyst. And information system capabilities required to meet the information needs of business stakeholders, right? The capabilities. What are the system capabilities? Whether it can be taken up, whether it's possible to take some reports, what are the contents of the report, everything has to be analyzed by system analysts, right? Usually system analysis do an organizational analysis if it is linked with the business analysis also, right? As I told you, business system analysis are always identifying this business analysis area. Study of organization including management structure. What sort of a management structure is there? Who are the top level, the hierarchy of the organization? Who are the people of the organization? Different business activities of the organization, right? Whether your organization is buying and selling, whether your organization is a product-based organization or a production-based organization or a service-based organization. Likewise, different activities companies operating at the moment, right? Environmental systems, what are the things that is there relevant to the organizational environment, right? Current information systems in the organization. All these things are important to understand in an organizational analysis. If they analyze the input, process, output, storage, and control of the current systems, because why? They need to propose a new system for the organization, then they should have idea about the current software, hardware, and information technology resource availability. That's why they do organizational analysis. And also analysis of the present system is needed. As I told you, analyzing the organization, one of the things is that analyzing the present system, right? Before designing the new system, it's important to study the system to be improved or replaced, hardware and software or a network, right? You need to have some of the hardware, software, and telecommunication requirement, right? There are people, those who are say need different data or the information. All these things need to be identified in the present system, and different activities in the present system, the system analysis need to be identified, right? They need to identify all these things, as well as they need to have some of the diagrammatic tools also used in identifying the systems and explaining the systems, right? We call it as the logical analysis, right? The logical model is a blueprint of the current system, and it can display what is the current system does without regard how it does it. So rather than saying that in detail what or way that you are operating the system, what the system doing at the moment. If you are having a employee attendance system, what will be the outcome of the employee attendance system? That it will not explain how the attendance is calculating, but simply what the system doing is mainly concentrating. Therefore, sometime it might come up with different models. Here, as such, I'll give you some examples here. This slide should be there with your slide set. Here, this is a physical bookstore, as is business process. for purchasing a book from a physical bookstore. Here, see that this process is the business process. You can start from here and go through this process. If you are buying a book from a physical bookstore, you follow this process. Just do it. Go to a bookstore, search shelves, book available. If no, ask from the clerk. If found, no, inquire about the about ordering, right? And able to order. If no, go to another bookstore, right? That's a one path you can go. If the book is available, right? The book is available, purchase the book, take the book home. That's another path. And if the book is not available, ask from the clerk to search. If found, yes, purchase the book and take the book home. Another path. And if you found that book is not available, and if it is available to order, yes, then you might be placed the order here. You ask clerk to place the order. When the clerk receive the book, the clerk notify the customer. You go to the bookstore, purchase the book, and take the book home. Right? This is a clear picture of what is happening in this book purchasing. If you are purchasing a book from a physical bookstore, this is clearly seen. Right? So that's a one logical arrangement of or diagrammatic explanation of way that you can identify the current system. Once you think of a automated system, right? Redesign process for purchasing a book online. See that online book purchasing, how it happened, right? Here, access online bookstore, search online catalog, book available, no, search another online bookstore, right? Select another online bookstore, search the online catalog of that bookstore, right? Book available, yes, enter the order and payment data and receive the book in email, all right? By that way, you can simply explain the way that it happened. So once you think of system analysis of the current system, logical model can be used to explain the current system, which is helpful to people to understand and people to understand the ways that you can use or the things or the activities that you are following at the moment in your process, in your organization, right? Such a logical model can be developed to do the logical analysis. It allows an analyst to understand the process, functions, and data associated with the system without getting bogged down with hardware and software, right? Without getting bogged down into the hardware and software, without thinking about the hardware and software, just draw up a complete diagram and give explanation of the current system and how the system is operating, right? When the logical model is sound, the physical model can be easily determined with positive consequences. You can simply develop the physical model easily if you clearly understand the logical model, right? Therefore, that's the logical analysis. And system analysis also concentrate about the functional requirement analysis, right? Functional requirement analysis, something like, which is steps of system analysis. One of the most difficult thing, what you have to do, what you operate in a system analysis process. To determine what type of information each business activities require, right? Type of information, what information is needed. It's a very difficult thing if there are a lot of stakeholder requirements are there. If many people are there as users, their requirements might be differ from one another. Then it will be very much difficult for summarizing the requirement and getting down into a common requirement, common information requirement. Right? We try to determine the information processing capabilities required for each system capability, each system activity. The goal is to identify what should be done, not how to do it. The system analysis never going to go into detail and try to explain how it's going to be happen. System analyst always identifying the requirements and suggesting the mechanisms, but it will not go into detail and explain the other things might be needed. Therefore, system analysis or the functional requirement analysis might have these different things. As for example, right, you have the user interfaces, you have processing, you have storage, control, all type of functional requirements might be given to a next level with these sort of a example for an e-commerce system. So if I'm thinking of an e-commerce system, as an example, you might be given user interface functional requirement, something like this: automatic entry to product data and easy to use data entry screens for web customers might be a user interface requirement, functional requirement, right? Fast automatic calculation of sales totals and shipping costs might be processing requirements, right? The storage requirement might be fast retrieval and update of data from product pricing and customer databases, right? The control requirement might be signals for data entry errors and quick email confirmation for customer might be a control requirement. Likewise, different functional requirements might be developed as the outcome of system analysis, right? At the same time, the system analysis, right, is a tedious process. As I told you, if you are spending a lot of time in system analysis, you can come up with a good picture of the existing organizational system, as well as you can come up with the functional requirements of the users or stakeholders. But too much of analysis, some people says, might paralyze the system, right? What do you mean by paralyze the system? The system might be paralyzed because you spend a lot of time in system analysis, and it's like a vicious cycle. You are spending a lot of time in analyzing, but no outcome take out from the system analysis might be an issue in most organization face. The functional requirement identification has to be done very as a tedious process, and if functional requirements are clearly identified, then it can give the report or the functional requirement analysis report to the next level, who are the system designers. After the investigation at the beginning, after investigation, you have moved on to the system analysis. System analysis will move on to the system design, which is the next step in system development life cycle, right? System design. I think it's a good time to take a break. Shall we take a break and come back? And we'll move on to the next step in system design.
Recording stopped.
Anything to know up to this point?
So one thing,
yes,
in the system analysis, there was a part like a business analysis. So system analysis, is it a part of system analysis also?
Yeah, here you might remember we do a organizational analysis. Yeah.
Yes.
Organizational analysis. There we have to discuss about the management structure, people, business activities. This is the part of the business analysis role. That's why some of the organizations use system business analysis as a role, right? They combine both these roles and combine the job together. The system analysis as a person is not only analyzing the system, but also he analyzes the managerial side of it or the business side of it, right? Because you cannot just develop the system without identifying the management side or the business side. That's why here organizational analysis is there, right? So the business analyst mainly concentrate about this part also. You can develop systems without concentrating this. But what happened is, if you are not thinking about this side, you might be end up with some of the problems at the implementation. because you are developing things for the people now. Sometimes business activities, system environment, all these things are very important. That's the thing that most of the system developers forget in some cases. They think that if you are developing a system from a most up-to-date application, everything is finished. But if it is not suited to the people, or if it is not suited to the managerial structures, that might be the one place which start the not accepting or non-acceptance of system by users, right? So that part is the one that we are always discussing in MIS. That's why I say that MIS is not a technical subject only. MIS is a combination of IT and management, right? The business analyst part role is this part, organizational analysis part. Got it?
Okay, so basically these roles are played by system analysis, no? So
yeah, that's why I say that system analysis play the role that if that person is capable of handling these things, if they can understand these things, they can do it. Otherwise, they will hire separate person as business analyst. If it's a huge system development, there will be a business analyst also there in the organization. Got it?
okay, thank you.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
We'll take a break and shall we join again around 3 p.m. Right? We'll take a break and join again around 3 p.m. You start the discussion. Okay, can we start the discussion again? Are you back?
Yes, sir, we can start.
Okay, right. Let me.
Recording in progress.
Right, we are in the system design. As you have gone through the previous steps in system development life cycle, we have gone through system investigation, system analysis, and in the system design, system designer will receive functional requirement analysis, which means that system analysis develops a functional requirement analysis, and as a report, it gives the information to the system designer. System designer will focus on three areas. Right? System designer mainly focus on three areas where you can see these three areas. This is system interface or the user interface design, data design, and process design are three main designs the system designers need to concentrate on. In these three designs, as we have discussed in the one of the previous discussions, I showed you 3T architecture. The 3T architecture mainly concentrated to three areas. These are the three areas. One of the things that in any system which we can identify, there will be a user interface, right? So in the design, we need to design the user interface. In the user interface, we concentrate mainly about users. In that case, we can think of different screens, different menus, homes, and
Recording stopped. Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Am I audible to you now?
Yes, sir.
All right. I might have a connection loss.
Okay.
I had a connection loss for some few seconds. That might be the reason. Okay. Coming back.
Recording in progress.
Right. In the system design, what I have just started to explain is about the user interface design. And as I told you, design has three different areas to concentrate. The user interface, we need to discuss about the soft and the hard. Soft design in the sense, on the screen, we have different things to display to the user, right? It might be different forms, it might be different, say, menus, dialog boxes, different things with different colors, and there might be animations. Likewise, the design, we need to think about the user interface design from the soft screen that we need to show to the user, as well as the reports that we might be developing through the system. So that's the one area we need to concentrate in the design, user interface design, and the data design and the process design. Other thing, what I have started to discuss is about the these three areas, because every time once we are thinking about the user interface, the user need to see some things which happen at the back. So we know that in any system, we have the three areas which we can identify, as I showed you earlier. Even we have the data in one area, or basically the back is the data repository or a database that we can think of in the back, right? Backend. Right? In the front end, we have the user interface, UI, and in the middle, we have different processes happening. This is the data. Different processes are there. Right? So what is happening is that every time we need to think of these three sides. Initially, the user interface, then the processes, because different processes are communicating each other here to generate information, and ultimately
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
So here we need to have what it's called user interface need to be designed here in the front end, and backend need to be designed in the data, how the data is managed inside the database, and how the different tables and structures are there. You might be remember we discussed about the table and data, say database schema, right? How we develop here, and the processes, what are the different procedures need to be designed here, has to be understand in the system design. That's why we say that these three designs, user interface design, process design, and data design, are the main thing that we need to concentrate in design or system design space, right? And in system design, it's something like that. Usually, system design also use some of the figures, so diagrams to show and give some explanation. This is one of the explanation, one of the diagram we usually use, right, is a data flow diagram, DFD. Data flow diagram will show you what are the things relevant to the system. These we quote as this we use for data file. This is a process. This is the external entity that we can think of, and this arrow shows the flow of data, right? How the data flows from a given process. And if you think this as the student requested courses might be there with the student.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
I think I had some issues with the sound. Let me.
Recording stopped.
Let me change my connection. Give me a minute. I'll change the connection, and might be an issue with the connection. Right. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I believe that there was a connection issue that I have faced. I just changed the connection. We'll see that whether any disturbance comes from my side again to shift again to the original connection. Okay. Let me share the screen again for the place which I have started.
Recording in progress.
This is the place which I have stopped with a connection issue. And here what I'm trying to say that this data flow diagram give you the idea how the different processes are arranging. Here this is a verify availability of course. We are the student requesting a course, and if the course is available, and if you say that if it can enroll the student, right? What happened is that accept or reject the selection, and based on that, course enrollment file will be updated, and check whether open course they are in the verify availability. Check the courses are available for the student, and if the course available, course detail will be sent to course information will be available to this process. And if the process is saying that right, this course is available, and the student selection or student enrollment is another process, where in that process course detail will be there, course enrollment will be information will be flow into the course file, and the student detail will be updated in the student master file. and the registration happened, and the confirmation registration is another process, and confirmation letter is sent to the student. So this diagram shows the different processes in that system. If it is a system developed, that system will have 3 different processes: verify availability process, enrollment student, and confirm registration. Right? And these are the ways that information flow into these 2 data repositories, data stores. Right? That is a diagrammatic notation where we can think of different processes. And also this is a structured
Recording stopped. Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
right. Again, that was happened. I believe that at what point that you missed me? You lost my.
In the diagram, sir.
In this diagram?
No, previous one.
Previous one.
Enrollment one.
All right. Okay. Then this one.
Exactly, sir.
Okay. Have you heard what I said till the end of this explanation? I explained that these are the processors and these are the stores of data. Got it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, right. Then the other thing is, okay, my recording also messed up with this.
Recording in progress.
Okay, this diagram basically, as I explained to you earlier, explained about the processors. These 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 are different processors. And the data, how the data flow from, these are the data stores, right? This notation used for data stores, so data bases or data file. And data flow is shown by the arrows. Then once you are thinking about the design of a specific system, you can have this sort of a diagrammatic tool to identify what are the different processes in design, because we mainly concentrate about the user interface, process design, and data design, right? And here also some example which I just showed you about the structure chart. Structure chart also showing that how you can identify different process or procedures and sub procedures. So these are different sub procedures you can break down. The complete system, payroll system, you can break into 3 different procedures or processes, and these procedures could be further developed into sub procedures, where each of these procedures having different things to do in there. Right. Likewise, we can simply identify different processes and basically concentrate about the process design. So let me go into detail about the user interface design and give you some idea. The user interface design is we mainly concentrate about the interaction between the user and their computer-based application. Right here, you can see that some of the interactions, right, activities in the context and technologies, and we develop something known as a persona, where we can think about the different technologies and how different people will link with these technologies, and because people are, it's like a human computer interaction. We have an area of HCI, of human computer interaction, right? It's HCI, human computer interaction, where we can have the computer screen and the human. Every time the human, how the human see the system and how this interaction happen will be concentrated in user interface design, because sometimes the user might be a person who cannot see, or user might be a person who cannot say have a kind of a visibility or any sort of a disability. Therefore, in such a situation, how information system communicate might be different, or sometimes user might have blind for some colors. Likewise, human computer interaction is one of the area where we always concentrate in computer science. Therefore, user interface design, we mainly concentrate about the interaction between the computer and the user. That's why here it says that designers concentrate on design of attractive and efficient forms of user inputs and outputs. So that's why some of the vending machines, if you go to different, say, banks, those machines might have verbal instructions also available, rather than just display the information on the screen, right? So likewise, there might have some systems available for blind people with the braille capabilities. Likewise, different interactions or different user interfaces might have developed based on the requirement of the user, right? So in user interface design, very frequently we use the concept called prototyping, because prototyping is the process of designing a user interface with different colors and take the user agreement with those user interfaces. Therefore, prototyping is a process, and prototype is the outcome of the user interface development or development, right? That's one usually one of the easiest mechanism of developing the user interface is with the prototyping process. The prototyping process will mainly give you the user a feeling that the user involvement is there in the design of the prototype, and produce detailed design specification for information products such as display screens, right? So the outcome of the system design is the system specification, right? It concentrates about different areas of system, not only system user interfaces, but all the other areas, because system design will cover system user interface, system processors, process design, and data design, right? Here, in the data design, I have explained about earlier. I have not explained here in detail, but simple idea in data design is the data design mainly, you know what is the user interface design now. You need to develop the forms and different colors and everything. The process design, you need to have programs, as I showed you in earlier slides. The processors, you need to identify what are the main processors, sub-processors likewise identified. The data design is concentrated about the different data elements or data tables, because what we need in database is these sort of a data tables, right? You might have, if you are thinking of a relational database, what are the different relationships might be there, and the relations. All right, there's a question about the prototype. I'll come to the prototype explanation soon. Give me a minute. I'll come to the prototype discussion again, because there's a one slide explaining about the prototype in detail that comes with the chat message, right? And here what I'm explaining is about the data design. Data design, what we need ultimately in the database, if it's a relational database, remember the term relational databases, which I have explained. In relational databases, I explained data is stored in the table formation, right? Data is stored in the table formation. If this is the database, if become the RDB, relational database, if data stored in this sort of a table formation, right? This table will give another name as relation, right? Now, how this RDB developed? This RDB developed by understanding a specific table. For example, this might be a student table, or this might be an employee table, right? If I take in a business form, employee table. This might be a customer table. This might be a product table, right? Likewise, different tables might have relationships. These are the relationships, right? Then how can we develop this? This is the data design, right? The data design, this is the physical design. Physical design, what we call physically database contain these tables. But before this physical design, remember we discussed about the conceptual design and logical design in databases. In previous database discussion with me some time back, in the previous discussion, you should have remember we discussed about 3 design phases in data. I explained that conceptual design, logical design, and physical design, right? So this is the physical design. Physically, how the database, this is the database inside the hard disk. Inside the hard disk, how these tables are arranged. What are the name of the table? And I said that inside the table, inside the database, there's a specific area called database, we can say. And there also we have another area called metadata. Data about data. This is the metadata or the data dictionary, right? Metadata is data about data, or the data dictionary is there. So this will be the physical design. Before the physical design, we should have the conceptual design and the logical design. So conceptual design is something that we develop, something known as ERD, entity relationship diagram, right? In the ERD, you might have something like this: employee table, right? Employee entity might have customer, might look different customer. For each employee, there will be a customer allocated. Something like this is it. One employee might have many customers. Something like we develop the ER diagram, right? Customer might buy products. So based on the situation, based on the things in real life, how they relate to each other, one customer might buy many products. One product might be taken by many customers. Or one product is taken by one customer, and the same product type might be taken by many customers. Likewise, there will be different arrangement of relationships. We call that as the ERD. ERD is the conceptual design. Conceptual. Right? Therefore, in data design, we need to think about the conceptual design, and thereafter you develop the schema. Schema is the structure. What are the tables? This table should have these columns, right? These columns, and this is the primary key. This is the primary key, right? If I think of another table, this might be the foreign key. Foreign key, and this foreign key will link with the primary key. This is the primary key in this table. Likewise, we have arrangement of data, as we call it as logical design, right? logical design. And this is the physical design. Likewise, in databases, in data design, conceptual, logical, physical arrangement of data, we need to be confirmed at the system design phase, right? System design phase. Therefore, once we have all this information, and we need to think about, right, we have this design, how we develop this physical design with what database management system, DBMS, what DBMS that we are using, whether we are using Oracle or whether we are using Microsoft SQL Server, DB2 or Microsoft Access. Likewise, we need to think of physical design different. Likewise, then database design and development, we need to think as a separate part in system design, right? Then altogether, we have this sort of a specification at last, right? It's sort of a specification at last, right? We have this sort of a specification, and what we do is we need to give user interface information, right? User interface specification, use personalized screen, welcome repeat web customers, and that makes product recommendations. This might be the important thing in user interface. And database specification, develop database that use object relational database management software to organize access to all customers and inventory data and to multimedia product information, right? Software specification, acquire an e-commerce software engine to process all e-commerce transactions. Likewise, hardware network, personal specification, all these type of system specifications we need to develop as a report. This is the example of such system specification. You can detail more: output, input, user interface, database design, processing, manual procedures, control. Likewise, for each and every, we have different things to check, right? For example, user interface, simplicity, efficiency, logic, feedback, errors, how these things are operating in the user interface, right? And if you think of the security, access control, catastrophe plans, audit trials, how these things are operating in the security, you have to give detailed information for that. Likewise, for each and every area in the design specification, you have to give information in more detail, where the designer or basically the developer could be used thereafter in his or her implementation in the development of the application, right? So that is one important thing which we could use in the system design or system design. We are mainly concentrate about these three areas, right? So there are a lot of other things that we can discuss, but simple idea behind the data design or system design is we need to do the user interface design, we need to do the data design, and we need to do the process design separately and develop specifications for each of these is the job of the system designer, right? Once the system design complete the process, it goes into different other things. Here it shows the prototyping. There's a question about the prototyping. The prototyping is started, as I told you, after the designer, developer's job is started, right? The developer's job is started. But if it is going through a very rapid way of developing application, most of the time prototyping is the process we use. So after the designer gives some information, and with that information, prototyping or the prototyping developer could be develop the prototype. So prototype is a very quick type of a development, or it's a kind of a testing working model. That's why I say prototyping is a rapid development. and testing of working models, right? It develop a working model where assume that you are developing a user interface, and your user interface, you might be asked from the user, real user, what type of user interface you like, what type of colors you like. He or she might be said, right? I like light colors, which plays to my eyes. Light blue, light green might be okay. Then based on his or her explanation, I just develop a user interface with the software, right? And you might ask what side of a menus that you like. Do you like drop down menus or pop up menus? He might be said that I like drop down menus. Then you might use drop down menus for all the menus as sub menus. Likewise, you develop a working model, right? That development is very interactive. You ask from the user, based on the user comments, you do the changes with the software, right? Very interactive as well as iterative process. Iterative process in the sense it going the same cycle again and again, right? During the design phase, that it's iterate, right? That iteration, each and every iteration mean that you are doing some improvements to the system, improvements to the working model, right? This process makes development fast and easier, especially when the user requirements are hard to define, right? If the user requirements are very hard to define, if it is very dynamic, if it is seems changing very quickly, very difficult to get the things from the user without having a tangible product on hand, then the prototyping is a very good mechanism, because prototyping is always iterative. Since it is very interactive, you can question the user and get the most out of the user and develop most satisfied system to the user, because user is involving very highly in the prototyping process, right? It says that as enlarge the role of business stakeholders. The business stakeholders are always very interactively join with the development process, right? So here, this is the prototyping cycle, right? Identify end user business requirements, right? Develop business prototype. This is the prototype that it developed. It's a working model.
Recording stopped.
Right? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir, now audible.
Okay, the point is that I have a power cut, but I'll continue because I have a backup in the sense in my connection, and also I have my battery power to some extent. Now the time is 3:51. I should be able to continue with the process, right? So what I do, I'll share the screen again and continue with the process. Right, now can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. We'll quickly go through because at what time I don't know whether power comes again, but I'll try my best to complete everything with my available battery power, right? So this is the point. This is the cyclical process where we usually identify the prototyping, and this is the prototyping cycle, and this is the maintenance cycle, right? So every time that develop the business, develop business system prototype and revise the prototype to better meet the end user requirement. You question the end user and you come up into a point where the user satisfied, and if the user satisfied, if the user is not satisfied, come back again to the development of prototype, improve the prototype, and go through with this process.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So this process goes through till the user satisfied with the system component, and if the user satisfied with the system component, then he or she can go further. Otherwise, this cycle will iterate many times. All right, and this is the maintenance cycle. Use and maintain an accepted business system. Then the implementation happen in this side. If the user satisfied, then we can add that into that component into the system and continue. So this is a cycle, as you can see. This line come back to the earlier activity, mean that that's the cycle, or that's the iteration, right? The prototyping is basically is this with this way where it go with the process. Okay, and this is another use of system design and development strategy, right? The earlier one also development strategy, right? Development strategy, because some of the people do the design and development together. The prototyping is the process they can follow. After they get the analysis information, they can easily go into the design and development of a system with a prototype. So that's the one mechanism. Or else, some people go into end user development, right? End user development is that IS professionals play a consulting role while users do their own application development. Assume that you are capable, you are aware about some of the what you call system development tools. You are the end user, then you can develop an application with the support of these third generation tools. Third generation tools are very supportive or end user supportive tools. Most of the time, third generation software development tools are having drag and drop capabilities, right? Developing a user interface is easier for users, right? With that drag and drop capabilities, drag and drop in the sense, if you are developing an interface, if you need a text box, you have a text box build up. What you can do is click and drag and drop there into the white space. Then you can have a interface, say text box. And if you need to have a button, you have a button already programmed. You click that button from the toolbox and drag and drop there into the interface. Then you have a button. Likewise, you can simply develop. You can simply develop interfaces. Even not professional developers can develop nice looking interfaces. You can have OK button. This is a command button, something like OK and cancel. Right, cancel button, and there might be a text box here. There might be a drop down, right? This sort of a list can be dropped down. Likewise, these sort of interfaces very quickly can be developed with the support of software tools which are available nowadays. Right? If a user develops their own application, then it's called as end user development. Right? The user might get some consultancies from an expert, but simply can develop an application. Right? And application package training or hardware and software advisors help gain access to the organizational databases are also available for some of the organization where they can easily use those techniques for the end user development. And here the focus of end user development is end user development should be focused on basic information processing activity components of information system, right? Because end user development is end user development, as the name implies, is developed by the end user. Then the main thing that he or she who is become end user is not an expert programmer, right? Therefore, basically, the expert, if it is a non-expertise, or basically if the end user is not learn a lot of things about the software, he or she might use basic things, basic information processing, basically input, output, processing, storages, control, all these things the developer might give priority, right? Therefore, that sort of a mechanism is there for end user development. In doing end user development, usually, as I told you, software packages are used, right? Application development capabilities are built into the software packages, right? As I told you, some drop-down capabilities of 3-dimensional or 3-generation languages, so 4th-generation languages, nowadays having all these mechanisms as software packages, then those things are very helpful for in doing end user development, right? And in implementation, as I told you, this book explain the development and implementation together, right? Therefore, here the implementation contain some of the things that in some other books explain as development process, right? But in the development, if you are thinking about the development, you can do the in-house development. Assume that you have a system developers in your organization. After the design, the developers can develop the system. If you have the programmers can develop the program, right? Develop the application or develop the solution. Or otherwise, you can outsource the software development to some expert party. Or you can do the, if the in-house developers are very effective and they are having not having large system to develop, it's a small system, they might be using prototyping mechanisms. Or if the users are somewhat manageable, somewhat aware about system development, they can do their own development, right? Or else the system could be outsourced and outside company might develop the application which the company have done the design part already, right? Likewise, if the development happen and the development at the end of the development, you need to have some of implementation activities. So here, these are some of the implementation activities. You need to acquire hardware and software which require for the organization, right? Software development also as a part of this. This is the point which I have explained, that you could use different mechanisms. Either you can develop your own system by the system developers available in the company, or outsource, or buy software off the shelf. Something like Microsoft Word is a document handling software where you not develop the document handling, you can simply buy Microsoft Word, right? Likewise, you can buy the off the shelf, or you can outsource. You can develop your own development company, or else you can go for a end user development. Likewise, there are different development approaches are there, right? And testing of programs and procedures, conversion of the resources, conversion alternatives, educating and training end users are some of the development or application implementation mechanisms or related mechanisms. We'll see what are these things as the implementation process. These are the main things in implementation process: acquisition of hardware, software development or modification, data conversion, end user training, and conversion strategies, right? So once you system designer will fail to there are not well designed systems, will fail if they are not properly implemented. That is why implementation process require project management effort. So what we always said is that if you are having, these processes at the end, these processes are very important, because if you fail to do these things, if the design is all correct, design is well done, but the implementation failure will end up with a system failure, right? That's why most of people go for a project management. And if I go into these steps, these different activities of implementation one by one, in acquisition of hardware and software, evaluating hardware, software, and services is one of the things that people do. It says that establish minimum physical and performance characteristics for all hardware and software. Right? We need to have a performance characteristics, and we should have a idea what sort of hardware that we are buying, or what sort of software that we are buying, and how these things are arranged together. Right? In that case, you need to have a RFP and RFQ. Can anybody explain what is RFP and what is RFQ? RFP? What does the RFP mean? Anybody? I believe you know this.
Request for proposals?
Yes, it's a request for proposal. And what's the request for proposal and RFQ? Request for? It's request for quotation, right? The RFP and RFQ are used for two different purposes. If you are familiar with the requirement, if you are knowing the real requirement and all the things and all the itty-nitty of every corner of the requirement, everything in the requirement, and what we can do is we can think of RFQ. You know all the technologies, you know the solutions, and what are the things related to the solution, everything. You can ask for quotation from different companies. But if you are not sure about the solution, what we do? We go for RFP. We can give the problem and ask companies to come up with proposals, right? Then you can ask for some companies, right? We have this problem, provide the proposal with all this information. Then what the companies do, they propose a different solution, and then you can go for quotation. What are the price for these components, right? Likewise, RFP and RFQ are two different things that while we need to concentrate in evaluating hardware, software, and once we are buying hardware and software, right? Then if the RFPs confirm, if they are confirm about the solution, we can send appropriate vendors the request for quotation, right? Then people will quote, and sometime a kind of a bidding process. Then we can come up into agreement. We are going to buy from these organizations these products or different services, right? And evaluate bids when received, right? All the claims must be demonstrated, obtain recommendation from other users, right? Search independent sources for evaluations and benchmark test programs and test data. You can do all these things, and when bids are received, and we can evaluate the bids and come up into an agreement that we are going to buy from these parties. Right, then these are the evaluation factors. Sometimes you might be think of hardware evaluation factors such as performance, cost, reliability, and sometimes software evaluation factors, right? You might be evaluating software for say whether it's a software, how fast the software is, right? And what are the type of bugs might be created with the software, with the software properly providing providing all the information correctly, right? All the IS services and evaluation factors such as performance, systems development, maintenance, conversion, right? Likewise, backups provided by the software and different services. Likewise, all these things relevant to the evaluation factors might be there. And once we are confirmed about the factors, we can think of buying that software or a hardware, right? That's the main thing that people do. And different other implementation activities are something like testing might be one of the important thing. You need to go for a testing. Testing, if you are familiar with testing, you should know that there are different type of testing. We have the testing explanation. All right, okay, I'll come to that then. And testing, data conversion, documentation, and training are few different important things in other implementation activities, right? And if you think of a testing, system testing is one of the major thing in there. And system testing might have different, say, testing and debugging software, testing websites and website performance might be there, testing new hardware, review of prototypes. Likewise, testing might have different variations, different levels, right? Some people do the unit testing, system testing, and acceptance testing or something like. And some of the time, mainly the software quality assurance people are concentrate about the system testing, right? Whether system is working as explained by the vendors of the system, right? So likewise, that's why he has said that debugging is checking for bugs or errors in the software. And mainly if the system is error-free, it's a very good system. But it's very much difficult to say that it's zero errors are there with the system, because it's like a myth. It's very difficult to do that. There might be some errors, but it minimizes the errors at the time of testing, right? And data conversion, right? Once you think of conversion of data, or basically what you call convert the data, mean that converting data from the old system, old databases to the new databases. You might have a manual system earlier. Now you might automated or semi-automated system. Then how you are taking the data from manual system to a semi-automated system, and you need to have a data entry operator. You need to have different other mechanisms to convert, right? And sometimes you might need to correct the data. Some of the errors might be there in the data. Once you are converting, you need to check that and rectify those errors, and filtering out unwanted data. Sometimes there might be some data which are not wanted to the system, not needed to the system, or sometimes the data is outdated, no need to have in the new system. Therefore, some of a filtering mechanism might be important. And consolidating data from several databases, or the aggregating. We might need to combine the data, consolidate to aggregate from different databases, also needed. Sometimes you have customer data in one database, product data in another database, or transaction data is another database. Therefore, sometimes if you need to combine them together, there should be some mechanisms of data conversion, right? And organizing data into a new data subsets is always in the data conversion. You need to have data, and how the data is combined together need to be identified. And improperly organized and formatted data is major cause of implementation failure, right? But that is true that if you don't have a proper way of formatting data, you might have different data formats will be difficult to combine together, right? That's one part of a data conversion. And right, documentation is another area where we need to concentrate, because everything need to document. We usually put the sample user documentation is a one part, and system documentation is another part. Basically, user documentation, we concentrate about the different sample data and data entry, screens, formats, reports. All these things are given to the user in managing the system, right? And system operating instruction. Usually, this is available to the user. System operating instructions, very quick review of the information in the system, right? If you are encountered with error, then how to overcome this error might have documented in this user documentation, right? The user documentation is usually there. If you are using a system in your organization, you should have given the user documentation where you have basic ways of overcoming problems or errors in the system. And system documentation is somewhat kind of a mechanism, kind of a document. We are elaborating the things that you have done in the system development, right? It's a method of communicating among developing, implementing, and maintaining a computer-based system. It's like a kind of a button change between the previous developers and to the next developer. If the one version finish, if it goes to another version, then the first version, how they have developed it, what are the different things that we have recorded, what are the different things that we have done, everything will be stored there in the system documentation, right? It's a detailed record of system design, and extremely important when diagnosing problems and making system changes, right? In the maintenance, it's very important. If you are improving the system, if you are issuing if you are facing a difficulty in rectifying an error in the system, then this sort of a system documentation is very important, because system documentation might have different rules or different sections where it explain data design, process design, and how the user interface design happen. What are the activities of system analysis? What are the outcomes of functional requirement analysis? All these things are available in system documentation, which could be used by next level of development, right? The training, end user training is always there in most of the systems. As I say, that most of the train operators new business systems or its implementation will fail, right? If end user must be trained to operate new system, otherwise even though it develop, if it is not trained to do it, they might not effectively use the system, right? Then managers always need to join with the end users and make them understand how technology impacts on business operations in training. And system training should be implemented with training related to hardware and software packages. The training should be very effective, then the problems will be minimized if new training is there with the people. And implementation or the conversion strategies are one other important thing to understand, how we convert from the old system to a new system, right? This is the old system is in the purple color, and yellow such color is the orange like color is the new system. Then we have 4 different conversion strategies. One is the parallel strategy, which is old system is running, and parallel to that new system also running for some extent, and the new system will continue while the old system is stopped. Therefore, from here to here, both systems are parallelly running. Therefore, that's why we call that as parallel conversion. And pilot conversion is old system is running. One division of the old system might convert to the new system, and if it is success, all the other things are convert to the new system and go forward. That is what we called as the pilot conversion. The phase conversion or step-by-step conversion is that, as I told you earlier, old system, one division started, next division started. Likewise, the old system will convert into new system step by step in the process of conversion. Right? So that is what you called as the phase conversion. Direct or plunge conversion. Right? We call it as another name for plunge. For direct conversion, we stop the old system and start the new system. So plunge conversion is like that agricultural system. What has happened lastly is like a plunge conversion. People stop everything and try to start a new thing, which is not good in a way, and it have a lot of consequences. Now tell me, what is the most costliest system conversion strategy? Yes. Most costliest system conversion strategy?
So the paced one, but I think it's time consuming.
Yeah, it's a time consuming, but in case of parallel, I believe more than that, it's costly. Anybody agree with me? Parallel conversion could be the one, because this also kind of considerable, but if the parallel conversion happened for a long period of time, you have to maintain two systems, old system and new system. Then it will be somewhat costly in a way than pace, I believe. What about the most riskiest?
Plunge, sir.
Plunge or the direct. Both are same. Plunge conversion or a direct conversion, right? Because if something fail, there's no way than apologizing. What you can do, there's no way returning back to the old system, because you are now in the new system. It's very hard to go back to the new system. Therefore, direct conversion or plunge conversion is most riskiest way of conversion of the strategy, right? Likewise, these are implementation, and there is a post implementation activities also. Sometime after we implement, this is something that we might need to face. A single most costly activity, correcting errors of error or faults in the system. Sometime after the implementation, we might be need to go for this, right? And improving system performance. Sometime they are might be needed by the system developers. Adapting the system to changes in the operating or business environment, right? We might be need to change, or in order to adapt to the business environment, we might be need to do some changes, or require more programmers than does application development, right? If you are thinking of debugging or error handling, if there's a fault come, sometime you might be need to spend a lot of time, and you need to have a lot of programming resources, or resource people need to be there. It's not easier, same as in system development or application development, because finding an error and rectifying error is not easy than just developing something from the scratch, right? It may exist for years. Sometime post implementation activities, you can spend a lot of time checking the system, and after the implementation, you have to be in touch with the system development and system which is on running. That is what. And system maintenance, as in the last process, there are 4 basic categories of system maintenance. These are the different type of maintenance: corrective, adaptive, perfective, and preventive. Just see what are the differences of these basic categories of maintenance. corrective is a fix bugs and logical errors. We know that we can simply fix bugs and logical errors. We are correcting something. Adaptive, add new functionalities. As I told you in the beginning even, if there is something that we identified that these functionalities are needed for the system, then you can do that improvement in the maintenance. We call it as adaptive kind of a maintenance. And perfective, we might be identified that these mechanisms might be redefined and improve the performance. We make it as a perfective, right? Because after we using the system for some time only, we identified that the system should have changed here on a different way. Then we need to make it perfect and improving the performance with that change. And preventive is reduce chances of failure. If there are some loopholes we identified, that's why most of the OS developers come up with patches, right? If they are seeing that there might be some risk of attacks from hackers, what they do after the development, they come up with something known as patches, right? Patches is something kind of software where you can upgrade the software freely without paying any money to the developer or a vendor. The vendor give that patch free of charge to the user, right? Because by using that patch, the software will be more robust, and it's very difficult for hacker to hack or attacker or the virus to attack to the system. Something like we call it as a preventive maintenance, right? That's maintenance, system maintenance. And post implementation, we always ensure that newly implemented system meets the established business objectives, right? Your business objectives might be there always. Errors must be corrected by the maintenance process and include a periodic review or audit of the system as well as continuous monitoring. The system auditing is something like which comes with the post implementation, and continuous monitoring will always ensure that system will not going to be failed. And as I explained to you earlier, even the project management is basically linked with the system, and project management skills of knowledge necessary to be good project manager will translate into a virtually any project environment. So once you think of the project management, people always, or the project manager always identify the system needs and arrange the resources based on the requirements of the organization by planning all the activities of the project, right? And in organization, the different things such as basic projects, they mainly concentrate about few things, right? So these are the, as you say, that every project has a set of activities with a clear beginning and end. There will be a goal, objectives, task, limitation or constraints, a series of steps of phases. So most of the time, there will be a target to achieve. There will be objectives, tasks, and more importantly, constraints are there. Limitations are constraints. So if it is a very free flow, there will be no need of a project manager. But since there are constraints, there are limitations, right? It will not allow you to go as you like. Then the project manager's effective work will be always helpful. That's why projects are always managed by a project manager, and good arrangement of activities will always take the project into a completion on a given time period with the proper quality and under the budget requirements of the given project, right? That's why I say that managing a project effectively require process, tools, and techniques to follow in projects. Different tools, techniques, and process need to be used by the project manager. And these are the phases of project management, 5 phases: initial, planning, executing, controlling, and closing, right? initiating a project or defining a project, right? You need to have different problems or goals. There should be always you are facing a problem or a narrow identification of a narrow area where you're going to fill up, right? Then we identify the objectives and resources there. We secure the resources and cost and benefits, as I explained to you earlier, remember? And feasibility of the system is the initial process, right? So cost benefit analysis, feasibility study, all these are initiation of definition phase, right? Planning phase is that example activity, something like sequence of activities. You have to have a critical path, right? Identify critical path, what path is most important, and what are the steps. Basically, if you follow that path, that will be a most important path. So shortest path might be there as well as the critical path. And critical path is identified because if you are not following, if you are not concentrating on those critical points, you might be end up with some failures at the end. Therefore, identify the critical path is always important. The planning process, we identify what are the critical paths. The IS project management is the area where you can learn later on. You are doing, there should be a course at the later case for specializing areas, IS project management, which will helpful to you to understand if you are following that area, right? Estimate time, resources, and project completion estimations are always there with the project planning. Microsoft Project is one of the tool, and there are a lot of other tools available. Even in open source, there are different tools available in project management. Right, detailed project plan is always helpful to go with the project completion with a plan. In the execution phase, commit resources to a specific task. We assign the resources, additional resources if it is needed, and if it is personal facilities might be needed, and also work on each project and initiating project and executing the projects are some of the execution phase activities that we do. And controlling phase is that reporting obligations such as variance, status and resources allocation reports might be there. And we mainly identifying different reports and identify that those based on these the reports and benchmarks, we might evaluate whether we are going in the correct track, right? The reporting tools are there, and compare actual progress with the baseline. The baseline is always a guide for you. Based on the baseline, you can see that whether you are going in the actual path or whether you are in the different path where you not been able to achieve the final goal, right? And initiate control interventions if necessary, right? If it is going in the wrong direction, you need to have some alarms and identify what to do to overcome to stop that and put that into the correct track is in the control. And closing phase is the final one where we need to have a example of activities, install all the deliverables, right? What are the things that you have brought to the system, brought to the project, finalize all obligations and commitment, check whether you have met the required objectives, right? Meet with stakeholders and identify that whether they are satisfied with the deliverables, release project resources and document projects, as well as issue final reports are some of the important things that we do in project management, right? So that is the basic thing that we need to concentrate, because while we are working with the system activities, we need to have information relevant to the system development. And we have discussed about system development approaches and system development process. Basically, we discussed about the prototyping, as I told you, After the design and development, we have different approaches. We can go for prototyping, we can go for end user development, or we can go for outsourcing, or we can do the development in-house and implement the system at last to the organization with different mechanisms of conversions. And finally, we discussed about, in order to do all these process, we need to have a project management approaches with 5 different steps of phases of project implementation. Right? That is our plan for the day. And I believe that you have some idea. Better you can look at the book and check it what we have done. Our discussion is basically goes into the developing business IT solutions. As we have discussed the business IT development strategies, here today we discuss about the solutions, right? Therefore, we stop the day and we can meet with the next week with the new session.
Recording stopped.
Do you have any questions related to the things that we have discussed? I believe that after you going through the slides again and try to understand the things that we have discussed, and if you check the book might not have the same arrangement of slides, arrangement of information. I have arranged the information in the slides in the way that we can have some understanding as well as easy for you to grasp, and that will be the arrangement for you to study for the examination also, right? Slides are like a guide of things that we are discussing in the class, that we are evaluating you in the same information. Any questions, any clarification need?
So excuse me. So
yes,
we feel like this subject is a very theoretical subject. So in the examination, do we need to use the exact terms? It means, do we need to study by heart, or and we need to?
The point is this: this is not actually a theoretical subject. What you might be feel is that if you have, there are a lot of practical examples. If I also try to take some practical examples, but from the things that I discuss, taking practical example might not familiar for everybody, right? What we say is, as we are discussing every time, we touch different areas. One is technical thing or technology, right? The other one is management, right? Management, and the other one is organizational related things. Therefore, what we expect from you in the examination is you don't need to use the same wording that we are used in our discussion, but you should have an idea of even the keywords, right? For example, if I talk about the business process, right? Business process is a keyword. That if you are trying to explain in a say half a page about the business process without using the keyword business process, it will be a very difficult thing, right? Likewise, business process might be a keyword, or we'll say we discussed about different technological infrastructure. We'll say IT infrastructure, right? IT infrastructure cover hardware, software, telecommunication, databases, and all the technical resources in the company. If you try to explain all these things word by word, rather than using IT infrastructure, then you are going in the wrong direction, right? Likewise, we always expect you to use the things that we have discussed theoretically and link your knowledge to the practical environment, right? If you refer to back to my explanation earlier in earlier discussion, I explained how you can use 5 forces model for taking say business decision. Remember, I explained 5 forces model of a Michael Porter's 5 forces model. If you only take Michael Porter's 5 forces model, if you only know that, but if you don't know how can it be used by a practical way in your organization, it's in vain, right? What we check is We check whether you know the thing, whether you know the theory. If you know the five forces model, if you cannot explain what is five forces model, right? That is not our expectation. You should know what is five forces model, because we have discussed that in the classroom. Then without stopping from there, you should know how can we use five forces model into organization in the real life. That is not theoretical, right? In that way, you have to explain how the five forces model the theory that you link with the practice. That is the thing that you are here. That's why we are doing MBA. Yeah, you need to bridge this gap, because you are experienced in the organization, but you might not knowing these things that you do practically in the organization link with some sort of a theoretical thing, right? That's the value addition that you are taking. You are linking that into a academic world or academic explanation, research related things. You link with your practice. Then that practice have a value. You can explain theoretically your practice, why you are doing this practice. Got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
That is I can explain hours and hours about this, but the point is all these things, these are not theoretical. That's the thing that I can say. But some terms are there, might be new to you. Those terms, understand those terms. For example, SOP, right? Standard operating procedure. You said. Now, if you said SOP, what is SOP? How can it be used in organization in real life? You should know, right? That's the practical thing. I can explain about the SOP and I can explain about how can it be used practically, but from your knowledge, from your organizational experience, you should know, right? My company uses SOP in this way, right? That has to be explained. If I ask about the experience, if I ask about the example, that is what you call as the knowledge, and that's called as the what you call wisdom is that, right? Therefore, this subject is very, very interesting subject. If you only understand the core and try to link with your knowledge, link with your organizational knowledge, organizational experience. Now, don't think this is a theoretical subject. It's a very practical subject. Only thing is that you should understand how the theory inside the subject should link with the practice that you follow in your organization. Sometimes you might be not following that in your organization. Then after you learn this, you should be able to apply that into your organization, right? That sort of experience, that sort of knowledge, we expect to deliver in the practice, deliver in the examination, not only the thing that you know, without taking things from the things that we are discussing in the classroom. Because that's better you go through the slides, better you go through the videos again and again. I know I have a lot of examples. Sometimes even IS managers have failed MIS, right? They will get it serious. Most of the time, what we are so pathetic is why people fail the subject, because they are not following the instruction we give. They are not even attending the lectures, not even watching the videos. They assume that they know everything, but once we ask to bridge that gap, we can simply identify whether you were there in the class or not, whether you have learned that or not. Because you are writing, sometimes people answer script is 1 kilogram weight, but it's hard to find 40 marks or 50 marks, your passing rate. Because why? They are writing garbage, lot of garbage, without answering to a question that we ask. Right? But be careful. We have enough experience. People are not participating in the lectures. They presume that they know everything. And once we ask a question, they don't know how to bridge that gap and write the answer because they were not there in that track. Therefore, I'm going to publish my videos and follow the videos. Those who are not participating, I see that only 19 people here at the moment. Ask all the other people to participate, even though they are not participate. Watch the videos and prepare for the examination. Without preparing, don't come to the examination. Because once we see the answer script, we can clearly see that whether this person at least not participated, they have gone through the slides, you have watched the videos and learned what we taught you. If you are not learned, mean that there's no value addition that we have done to your life. So making a value addition is up to you. Since you have elders as well as you are paying for this, it's up to you to decide whether you are learning or not. But if you are fail, we cannot do anything because state universities always keep a quality. That quality is not degrade without anything. Therefore, we always try to maintain a quality. If you are not up to the quality standard, you have to fail, and you might be going to the graduation with the next batches, right? So be careful and follow the instructions. Ask your friends also, because I know that you all are busy, and but this is a kind of a sacrification you do, but you cannot find the time you spend here. It's up to you to decide whether you are doing the thing properly and earn some marks with the knowledge, or you try to earn marks and like gambling without just answering the questions, and if you fail you have to repeat it again in the next year. It will not be a good thing for you or your last say results script, right? So all the things are there. We have given the book, we have given the slides, we will be given the videos also. It's up to you to work. Since we are not meeting physically, we cannot do more than this, but we know that if we can meet physically, we can talk to you and we can question and we can do some face-to-face discussion, which be helpful to you. But in this environment, this is the maximum that we can do. More of the things are under your responsibility, right? Anything or any clarification? And I talked with Professor Dushant also about the control assessment. We will be giving a control assessment soon, and then you have some more chance to earn marks from the control assessment also, apart from the final examination. And last week is the final day of the my session, and with that we'll complete the third sessions. And I believe that you have gone through all these things. Those who have participated in lectures might have learned something. And in my case, I'll put all the videos very soon, and you can go through the videos again and refine back your knowledge. And if there's any question in the last week or basically last week, you can clarify, and we can finish it off with the semester, right? So thank you so much for your participation, and
thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll meet again next week.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.